Следующая тема важная.
Next topic is important.
Окей.
Okay.
И дальше
And next, I would like to
начать объяснять эту тему
start explaining this
или
topic of sattva
гун материальной
or the
природы,
modes of material nature,
чтобы
so that
мы
we
поняли,
understand
каким образом этим знанием
how this
можно и
knowledge
нужно
can
пользоваться
and
дальше.
should be used in our life.
Я рассказывал в прошлый раз,
As I was
что
describing
в
last
сущности
time, that in essence,
мы смотрим цветной телевизор.
we are just watching the colored television.
У нас у
Everyone.
всех есть
We
цветной
all
телевизор.
have a
Что
colored
это за телевизор,
television.
как называется?
What is this TV? What's it called? Mind, yes.
Там есть экран,
There is a
душа смотрит на
screen,
этот экран.
and the soul looks
Изображение
at
на
this
этом экране
screen.
из чего складывается?
And the picture on the screen is coming
Из
from what?
всего 3 цветов, правильно?
Only from 3
Все
colors,
цвета и
right?
все оттенки,
All
все
colors and
формы
all shades, all
этого мира
shapes of this world,
из 3 цветов.
they come out of 3 worlds.
Правильно? На экране
Right?
телевизора есть
On
только
the
3
screen of the
цвета.
TV, there are only 3 colors.
Там есть эти ячеечки.
There are all these
соответственно,
cells,
когда
and
лучше бегает,
when
они
the ray
загораются,
runs, they get activated, and then
изображение. Точно так же на экране
the
нашего
color image
телевизора
appears.
есть только
Just
3
the
цвета. Как
same
они
way
называются?
on the color of our television, there are only 3 colors. What are
Потому
the
что
names?
гуны где находятся?
Yes, the gunas. Because where are the gunas situated?
Везде.
Everywhere.
Гуны находятся во мне, и что они сделают со
The
мной?
gunas are inside of me, and what they're doing with me, yes, they're
Гуны
going
находятся
inside.
во мне, но
The
на
gunas
самом
are
деле
inside
я
of me, but
вижу не
in
объективную реальность, я
reality,
вижу
I don't
отражение этой
see
реальности
the
на
objective
экране
reality. I
моего
only see the
ума.
reflection of this
Да, оно
reality on the
цветное,
screen of
оно
my mind.
просто
Yes, it is
необъемное,
colored.
но
It
в
seems to
общем-то
me
я
three-dimensional.
рассматриваю телевизор
But in
с
general,
увлечением. Я,
I'm watching
душа,
this TV with this
рассматриваю телевизор.
enthusiasm as a
Представьте
soul.
себя, вы сидите в большом кинотеатре.
Watching this TV. Just imagine yourself, you're sitting in a large cinema. The soul is small.
Кинотеатр, тело
The
большое.
cinema, the body is very large.
И там есть
And
всякое у вас есть.
there is this
Скафандр,
the spacesuit that you have, a virtual reality device, and illuminated screen.
душа завороженная.
And the soul is completely mesmerized
Что
by
на
this
самом деле
sight.
происходит? Что она
What is actually happening? What is she watching?
Просто мельтешение гун.
Yeah, just a flickering of the modes of material nature.
То саттва гуна, то
Either sattva or rajagun or different combinations of them, the forms, and the soul is watching all this.
Но это
And,
плохо,
but this
потому
is
что это
bad
привязывает
because
нас, и душа
it ties
привязана,
us
она готова
down.
смотреть
The
этот,
soul has been tied up,
скучный
is willing to watch this boring movie, this soap opera.
Кришнананда Прабху
Krishnanda
подсказывает.
Prabhu suggests
Мыльные оперы на производственную тему.
a shoppy soap opera.
Готова я смотреть из жизни в
And we are ready to watch it from life to life to life to life. You know, the story that's
Но
just going on there.
есть один
But
плюс.
there is one advantage.
Плюс заключается в том,
And the advantage is that, and that's what we're going to talk about, is that in essence,
управлять
I can control what happens on that screen.
Как правило, люди этого не делают.
Because
Как
usually
правило,
people
люди
don't do this.
просто
Typically people are just
заворожены,
mesmerized,
загипнотизированы тем,
hypnotized
что происходит,
by
они
what is
принимают это
happening.
за
They
чистую
take
воду,
it as a reality
ударяются во всё это, живут
and
всем.
completely got into all this
Но
and live according to
То,
this.
что Кришна нам
But
объясняет,
what Krishna explains to us, he explains to us that you can change what will be happening on the screen of your mind.
Цвет.
You can adjust the color,
Ты можешь, как есть там ручка особая,
and, there is a special
да,
handle
можно
there.
чуть-чуть поменять, и она
You
посветлее
can
будет.
change it a little bit and that will be a little bit
Было
brighter.
всё угрюмое такое, как
Before it was all
сейчас.
gloomy and like this.
Подстроил и
But
повеселее
you
стало.
just set up a little bit and then became more
В
cheerful.
один
Have you
день
noticed
всё
that,
очень
yes?
хорошо, и
One
смотришь,
day everything is very good and you look
следующий
around and
день
everything is so nice, the next day is the same.
Просто ручка
It's
немножко
just
сбилась.
because the handle, just got off a little bit and then everything is dark and there are colors and then you look at all this and you're thinking, oh.
Так вот,
So,
человек может
a
и должен
person can and should actually change
картинку, которую он смотрит.
the picture which
Есть
he's
хорошая
watching.
буддийская притча.
There is a very good Buddhist parable about that. I really like it, a short one, about one old woman who was crying all her life.
Ее так и называли плачущей.
She was called the same, a crying old woman. She cried the whole life.
Очень
She
серьезная
had a
причина
very
для
good
того, чтобы
reason to
плакать. У
cry.
нее две дочери.
She had 2 daughters.
Одна дочь вышла
One
замуж за
daughter
продавца
married
зонтов,
an umbrella
другая
seller,
дочь
and
вышла
another
замуж за
daughter
продавца
married a
лапши.
seller of
Поэтому,
noodles.
когда шел дождь,
Therefore, when it was
старуха
raining,
плакала
the old woman
из-за того,
cried
что
because
вторая дочь,
the second
которая
daughter,
вышла замуж
who
за
married
продавца
the seller of the
лапши,
noodles,
не сможет высушить лапшу,
was not
не
able
сможет
to dry the
продать,
noodles
не
and
продать.
wouldn't be able to
Когда
sell and
светило
would
солнце,
suffer.
она
And when
думала
the
про
sun was
первую
shining,
дочь,
she was
которая
thinking about the
вышла
first
замуж за
daughter who
продавца
married the
зонтиков.
seller of
Она
the
думала,
umbrellas,
как же она
and
будет
she wondered
в
how
такой
she would
хорошей погоде продавать
sell
свой
her
зонтик.
umbrellas in such a good weather.
Она плакала
So
всю
she
свою
cried
жизнь,
all
потому что
her
у неё
life
каждый
because
день
every
было
day
серьезной
she
причиной
had
для
a
того, чтобы
really
плакать.
serious reason to cry.
До тех пор, пока она не встретила монаха, и монах ей сказал: слушай,
Until she met a guy,
конечно, научил. Когда
and
светит солнце,
he said,
думай,
a monk
выйди,
she met, and do you want me to listen to you that you don't cry? When the sun is shining, you think about the daughter who married the noodle seller, and when the rain is there, then think about the other daughter of the umbrella seller. And from that moment, the old lady turned from the crying lady into a happy, laughing old woman. And this is parable about us. We can turn from crying old women, turn into laughing ones. Because our usual song is everything is bad, all is bad, all is bad.
Как там говорится, крокодил не ловится.
How do you say there?
Растет кокос.
The crocodile is not caught, and the coconut doesn't grow. This is a verse from some Soviet movie soundtrack. Well, but that's a little bit, some joke about from on the side from coconut on the crocodile. It's a little aside topic, but the point is that you can learn all these things, and Krishna explains this. He says very serious things in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, simple things that I'm afraid we don't pay enough attention to. Because what are the modes of material nature doing? Gunas are what? What does it mean? Rope. And what does a rope does to us? Yeah, it binds us. Gunas bind us? Yes, tie up. Yes. So what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita? Yes, Krishna says, I will tell you how you can get liberated by gunas. Moreover, with which verse does he start with the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is about gunas? Who remembers? What does he say in the first verse? Yes. Now I will tell you the knowledge of what kind? Even more intimate, even more important, even better than the knowledge that you have heard before. And before what he was telling about bhakti, he told everything about the Atma and Paramatma and bhakti, he told everything. But in the 14th chapter he begins to tell about the gunas. And what does he say? Now I will tell you, finally, I will tell you something that is the most important. Why? Why do you think? Because, and write this down, because this knowledge gives in your hands some practical tool, because the previous knowledge denotes a goal. But what is the value of the goal that you're set for if you're not given the means to achieve it? Will this goal be worth something? If I tell you this, there is a goal, okay, come on. Well, you say, okay, I'm going to live my own way. And Krishna says, now I will give you the most important knowledge, because with that knowledge you can change your whole life. Because it's a practical, specific tool, instrument with which you can achieve the highest goal. And I'll be now explaining what he means. In fact, more or less we know about this, but that is the problem, that more or less, but we should know it more, but not less. So the example was given by Srila Prabhupada is that with the help of one thorn, another thorn is taken out. So therefore, with the help of the gunas, one can get rid of the influence of the gunas. And the first thing that we need to understand is where the gunas are located. Where? Everywhere. Everywhere. Everything is just permeated with gunas. Everything is based on the gunas. Weather. Is it related to the gunas? It is. Which guna is prevailing now? All depends on our TV, yes.
Внешне судить, то,
But in general, if judging externally, then naturally,
впрочем,
now it's
оно
Tamasic
всё время
weather.
преобладает, так что
However,
ничего
it
удивительного.
prevails here all the
Нет,
time,
она
so
сегодня прямо.
it's
Разговоры
nothing
наши
surprising
относятся к
that it prevails today as well.
Кто-нибудь когда-нибудь
Our
задавался
conversations, are they related to the modes of
разговор есть,
nature?
если
Has anyone ever asked himself the question,
Давай.
what kind of conversation am I having now, in what guna?
Одежда.
Have you ever
относится к
asked?
гунам?
Well, good fellows. Nice. And the clothing, does it belong to some
Всё.
gunas?
Походка наша относится к гунам природы?
Everything.
Кто-то
Does
хочет
our
сказать,
walk,
какой
the way we
гуне
walk,
есть
belongs to
страсть?
the modes of nature?
В гуне благости и в гуне невежества.
Can someone want to show how he walks in the mode of passion and in the mode of
Для
goodness?
демонстрации гуна.
Yeah, there is not so much room here to especially demonstrate the mode of passion, how you
Все
walk.
пронизано гунами. То есть это очень
So
важная вещь.
everything is
Вопрос
permeated
один,
with
на
gunas.
засыпку. К какой гуне относится эта вода?
Okay, then now important
Вода
question.
это пронизанная
One
гуна?
tricky question. What guna does this water refer to? Is the water permeated with guna? And here opinions are divided actually.
Мнения разделились.
Opinions divided now.
Благости.
Okay, so what
Кто-то
guna?
другого мнения придерживается?
Goodness.
Невежество.
Does anyone have a different opinion?
Стаканчик.
Ignorance. The cup is plastic.
На самом деле, надо другой вопрос задать. Нужно спросить,
Well,
откуда это вода,
the
правильно?
truth is, we need to ask another question. Where does this water come from, right?
На какой гуне?
In order to answer. Because if it's a tap water, which guna is this?
Если бы страсть.
Yeah, passion.
Там чистая
Yeah,
невежество
if only
течет
passion.
из-под этого
Pure
камня.
ignorance from
Она
flows
много
from
раз
this tap.
использовалась.
Because it
Та
has
вода,
been
которая
used many
из-под камня
times.
течет, много раз уже
The water flows from the tap has been purified many times.
очищалась, скажем так.
Let's put it this way.
Кришна начинает, он говорит, что одно из самых сильных влияний,
So Krishna begins, he says, the water, one of the biggest influences, strongest influences on the consciousness of a person is the
в
water.
зависимости от источника, в зависимости от чистоты.
It's one of the carriers, strongest carriers of the gunas, and depending on the source, depending on the purity, depending on the preparation, everything else, the water will have a completely different nature, and it will affect completely differently our consciousness in completely different ways. Have you ever thought about this before drinking water? What guna it belongs to, where it came from?
Шри Вишну, это хорошо. Надо сказать.
Shri Vishnu,
надо
yeah, it's
потому
good.
что вода, она
You
очень
should
чутко
say,
реагирует на все
because
вибрации.
water is very sensitive to all
Кришна
vibrations.
в Хари Бхакти Виласе есть потрясающий стих. Из каких-то
In Hari Bhakti Vilas, there is an amazing verse,
что больше всего люблю какую воду.
some
Кто-то знает, какую воду?
scriptures where Krishna says that what kind of water he likes most. Does anyone know what kind of water Krishna loves most?
Она уже предложенная, то он уже, это уже его остатки. Он
If
сам
it's already been offered, then it is his remnants. He himself doesn't
Кришна
drink his
говорит, что
remnants.
он больше всего любит воду.
Krishna says that most of all he likes water.
Потому что я
It's an amazing verse. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to find it there because somewhere I read it. I needed to find it. But next time, if someone is interested, I will find it and I will tell you exactly. He says that the most of all, I like the water that was stored in the copper vessel. And then after that, he says, he who drinks such water is liberated.
То есть Кришна в сущности
Plain and
формулирует тот же
simple.
самый принцип, который он говорит в 14
So here, Krishna in essence formulates the same principle about which he speaks in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. With the help of the modes of nature, one can attain liberation if he is attentive to all these
сосуд медный
influences.
какой должен быть, чтобы эта
But
вода...
again, what kind of copper vessel should be for Krishna to
Обычно
like
я
this
видел,
water?
люди слышат, что
Should be
хорошо
clean.
пить медную воду.
Usually, I've seen people here that it's good to drink copper water.
Называется на санскрите тамрапани.
The water is stored in a copper vessel, and in Sanskrit it's called tamrapani. Beautiful name. Tamra means copper, pani means water.
Черные медные сосуды, в которых они...
And then
Эта вода
you
идет.
see such black copper vessels in which people store water.
Вода
Actually, this water is
приобретала особые
poisonous.
качества, а вода,
In
в
order
Аюрведе
for
говорится,
water
что
to
вода, которая
acquire
хранилась в
really
медном
special
сосуде,
qualities, and
несколько
in
часов,
Ayurveda it said that the water that has been stored in the copper vessel for a few hours,
она отбирает все токсины,
it
самые
becomes a
лучшие.
nectar. It completely cleanses the person. It removes all toxins. It's the best water that may be, but the vessel must be clean.
Чтобы он не- Лимон,
Therefore, it must be cleaned every day.
не знаю,
like lemon with chalk, I don't know, or
Лимоном, немножко лимона, корка лимона, очищаетесь.
little lemon
вот,
peel cleans it all.
Сейчас нам самое главное понять этот
So
момент,
now
этот
the
принцип.
most important thing for us is to understand this moment, this principle about how
Я говорил уже
gunas
в
can
прошлый
liberate
раз,
us.
что
And last time I said
система
that
мировоззренческая, которая описана в
that the whole worldview, the system of the worldview which is described in the Vedic
напоминает,
scriptures,
я
resembles-
приводил эту аналогию с компьютером. Кто помнит компьютерную?
I was giving this analogy with the computer. Who remembers the computer analogy?
графическую операционную систему,
Yes, it
которой
resembles
легко
a
пользоваться,
graphical
в отличие от
operating
современных
system,
операционных
which is easy to use,
где
unlike modern operating systems where
дезоксирированные кислоты вместе с карбогидратами,
deoxyribonucleic acids along with carbohydrates,
легко запутаться. Так,
a lot of
простая
other
графическая
things,
система. 5
and it's very easy
элементов,
to get confused there.
5
Here is a
органов
simple
чувств,
graphical system, 5
3
elements,
гуны материальные.
5 senses,
В
and
сущности,
3
это
modes of
3
material
главных
nature.
кнопки на компьютере
In essence,
нашего.
these are the 3 main buttons on the computer of
Нам дал этот
our
компьютер и сказал:
world.
дурак ты, дурак.
Krishna gave us this computer and
Нужно
said, "You're fool, you're a
объяснить,
fool.
чтобы легко было. И он объясняет, что есть 3 кнопки.
You need
Нажмешь
some
на
explanation that is easy." So he explains it very easily, that there are 3 buttons. If you press
нажмешь
Tamaguna,
на
what will
Раджагуну,
happen?
что будет?
Will be bad.
Будет сначала хорошо,
Click on
потом
Rajaguna, what will happen?
нажмешь на Сатвагуну,
First will be
что
good,
будет?
then it will be bad.
Сначала плохо,
Click
потом
on
хорошо.
Satvaguna, what will happen?
Всё,
At first will be
очень
bad,
просто. 3
then good.
кнопки. Так, запомнили, да?
Everything is very
Кнопки
simple.
всего.
3 buttons,
Какую
remember?
кнопку надо нажимать?
Yes? 3 buttons only in total. Which button should we press?
Сами выбирайте. Так. Нажмешь на
Choose yourself.
на escape. Какие-то буддисты.
Click on, yeah, escape. Some Buddhists are here, want to press the escape button.
Кришна объясняет, сейчас я прочитаю этот стих, очень важный, где он объясняет эти вещи.
Krishna is explaining, I'm going to read this verse, very important, where he explains these things. In fact, very important things. He says, the result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness, but action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. Is all clear? By performing pious actions, a person is purified. And purifying himself, he acquires knowledge and acquires happiness. By acting in the mode of passion, what does he gain? Suffering. And by acting in the mode of ignorance, what does he become? Becomes foolish. Easy, everything is clear. It's clear. Press the tamas button, what do you get? Foolishness, mada. Do you want to be foolish? Okay. Just press the button, but press as much as you like, and you will become foolish. Krishna will congratulate you. Welcome. Do you want suffering? There is a red button there. There is a blue button, and there is a red button, and there is a yellow button. If you press the red button, what do you get?
И это
Suffering.
очень хорошо нужно понять и поверить в это, узнать это, увидеть
And this
это,
is,
увидеть
you have to understand in this very nicely, very important to understand it, to believe and to recognize it, to see it in your own life. And there is also one very important point, is that
разрушает.
what tamas is doing ultimately?
Раджас что
Yeah,
делает?
it destroys.
Да, раджас творит.
And what does Rajas do?
Поддерживает.
Yes, Rajas creates, and Sattva,
Поэтому
yes,
из 3
supports.
богов, которые управляют этими
So out of the
гунами,
3
материальной
gods
природы,
who are controlling these modes of material nature, who is the real god?
ну и что?
Why? So what?
Есть хорошее объяснение. Когда вы строите дом, чтобы
One,
построить
there is
дом,
one very good explanation. When you are building a house, to build a house,
нанимайте
what
кого-то.
you doing? Are
Когда
you
вам
building
нужно
yourself?
разрушить этот дом, что
No,
вы
you're
делаете?
hiring someone, right?
Нанимайте кого-то.
And when you
А
need
когда
to
нужно
destroy
жить
this
в
house, what do you
этом доме,
do?
вы нанимаете
You're
кого-то.
hiring someone. And when you need to live in this house, do you hire someone or not?
Вишну значит
So
тот,
what
кто
Vishnu
вошел.
means?
Куда
Vishnu
вошел?
means one who has entered.
Домой вошел. Тот, кто вошел
Where?
и живет.
Entered where?
Иначе говоря, Вишну это
Yeah,
кто?
he's entered into the house. He has
Хозяин.
entered into the house and lives there. In other words, Vishnu is who?
Его
A host.
наемные работники.
He's the owner. Because who are all the other
Vishnu-
ones? His employees.
Бог. И он какой
Vishnu
гуны дает?
is God, And he is in charge of what? Guna, sattva guna. Because all the other gunas ultimately lead to degradation. And this is a very important lesson, the most important one, that in fact the only thing that we need is sattva. Preferably without the mixture of rajas. In order to get rid of rajas, sometimes rajas is needed for what? Yes, to get out of tamas. Yes, that's the historical role of rajas. Rajas is required, but only to get out of the morass of tamas. There is this famous, really good, very important parable which I also wanted to tell you about three robbers. Once upon a time there was a man and he set off for a long journey, he walked for a long time and entered in dense forest. As soon as he entered the forest, three robbers grabbed him, tied him up and robbed him completely. And they bound him and stood over him, thinking what to do with him. And one robber said, why we think too much, let's just kill him and that's it. Kill him, finish him, knife him. Another said, no, wait. That's some wet business, no need. Better we tie him up and the same thing will happen. Just tie him here to the tree, gag in his mouth and everything will be fine. Well, okay, they decided. Three robbers agreed, it was a good advice. They tied him tightly, gagged him and left. And this traveler was standing there suffering for a long time, tied to his tree. Suddenly he saw one of these robbers, the one who was silent. And the robber approached him and said, you know, I feel sorry for you. I thought how you were suffering. Let me untie you now. I will show you the road that leads out of this forest. And you, because yourself, you will never find it. He took him by the hand and led him to the edge of the forest and said, this is the road, it will lead you home. The man said, come with me. The robber said, no, I can't go there. I'm a robber. The police will grab me there and put me in jail. Have you recognized? Money. Money is spiritual knowledge. That the three modes of material nature take away. And what does Tamaguna say? Let's kill him, so there will be no witnesses. Rajaguna says, that's okay, he will die himself. Tie him up, gag in the mouth, let him scream. What does Sattva-guna say? Well, yeah, it's a pity. Let's go, I'll show you the way, let's go. I'll take you how to get out of here. So ultimately Sattva-guna is another thing. Please write this down. What does Sattva-guna do? Sattva-guna loosens the knots of our karma, gradually unties these knots. If a person lives in sattva, if a person consciously shapes his life with the help of sattva, then gradually the knots of his karma become not so heavy. He feels a lot more freedom. Have any one of you felt this freedom or lightness when you started leading a more sattvic lifestyle? Simply when a man is with this gag and he's already used to it and he's been there for a long time and he's tied up, he thinks, well, okay, no problem. But once he untied, he feels that something important has happened. And what is important, maybe at the end I will say about this, some very important beginning of the second chapter, 14th chapter. And Krishna says let's talk about the instrument itself. It's clear that we need to press on one button. Three gunas, they're constantly in which state? Yeah, in struggle, in dynamics. In other words, struggle of three gunas, and if one guna prevails, then what happens to the rest? Yeah, the rest are weakening proportionally. If one guna begins to predominate, all others go to the side. And In fact, what Krishna gives us, what instrument he gives? He gives us the instrument of the conscious mind, with the help of which we can build our life on the level of sattva, trying to make the influence of sattva prevail. And automatically, as a result of this, what will happen to the other modes of material nature? Yeah, they will retreat. In other words, how do people usually live in this world? Some gunas predominate, one guna is fighting, another guna is fighting. Person looks at what is happening on the TV screen, he's completely identifying himself with that, he takes everything as a face value. And then one guna takes him there, takes him here, the third one takes him there and somewhere else. And as a result of this, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains what one does all his life. Yeah, he's just swinging on the waves of this Maya. These are the waves. We're all swinging. Sometimes we're thrown down and we think, oh, how bad it is. And then the gunas throw us up and we think, wow, yeah. Of course, everything is well. And then again, everything is bad. It can be one day even. In one day, during one day we feel everything is clear, we control our destiny, we're all well, we're in good health, we think, oh yeah, I've achieved this, oh yeah, at the end, finally, I'm at the right place. I'm fine, but wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, everything just falls out of hands, everything goes like completely crazy, everything is completely obnoxious, nothing works out, everything is bad. And what does the person say at that moment? Yeah, he's saying everything is bad, all is bad, but no problem, wait until tomorrow. What will happen again tomorrow? Yeah, it will be something else. Astrologers know that. And the human's been very naive. Just think about it. To what extent the human is naive? He thinks everything depends on me, right? We think that everything is fine with us, everything is under control, everything is fine, we know how it is. And then just the very next moment something happens. They are told, like for example, you have cancer. Everything was fine yesterday, today what? Today everything is bad, everything is terrible. Then it can happen to anyone. The moon, which personifies our mind, what does it do every day? Yeah, it's taking a walk on the zodiac. And it has 27 houses there, right? And every day it's in her house. What is the day of the lunar cycle today? 11. Yes, 11. Under what nakshatra it's located, does anyone know? They're called nakshatras. Hasta. So today is Hasta. Hasta, what does it mean? It's a good day. Hasta means hand. Which means that today that all companies associated with business, with money, will be good. So today is a good day to grab, because today is Hasta Nakshatra. Hasta. It's an important day for all businessmen. What Nakshatra will be next day? Chitra. Chitra. So everything will be colorful, fun, beautiful. Person will be colorful, cheerful, frivolous. What will happen next day? So, in general, everything will go according to the plan. And the most amazing things in this is that the person thinks that everything depends on me. And Krishna says, Ahankara vimudatma. Everything is done by the mode of material nature. Today Chitra, everything is fun in the mind, everything is wonderful. Tomorrow some mula comes. And it is governed, controlled by the god of death, Mula, in the mind. And it's naturally, I'm simplifying all these things a little bit, but the point is that the person simply like limply floats on these waves. He becomes a hostage of all this. He's carried away somewhere constantly. So what should I do when some guna falls on me? Depending on nakshatra or some other influences, or just the weather. Nakshatras are there, but okay, we're so stupefied that we do not even perceive any nakshatras, but at least the weather still affects us, right? There is no sun and immediately dullness in our head. What do we need to do? Yeah, mantra is always good to chant. It's always. But in any case, what should be done? We need to try to adjust, so to speak, this TV screen. We need to add sattva guna to our life. You have to try. You have to consciously try to build your life in sattva and act in accordance with sattva. Because any act in sattva, despite these external influences, I feel bad and tamaguna acts on me, I really want to sleep, and nevertheless, I must try, wake up earlier, as early as possible, I must read the mantra, chant the mantra, I must try to smile, I must try do something else in the mode of goodness, because any action in the mode of goodness leads to what? Yes, leads to happiness and ultimately leads to liberation. At the end, it all gives a person an important resource, reserve. But at the same time, what is important to us that we need to understand is that adding the mode of goodness to our life, I should not hold on to what? To other gunas. It is necessary to clearly take this course to the mode of goodness. The guna of goodness means what? Everything should be clean around me, that around me everything should be in order, everything should be in place. Once we've had in our ashram Bhaktivedanta Purna Swamina, and there was a window sill, and on the window sill there was an ordinary still life. In principle everything was normal. In opinion of familiar ashram resident, everything was fine. There was some kind of thing standing there, where they drain water from the sink, and he looked at this tamaguna. He was asked why tamaguna. He said, because this thing is not in the middle. And what is doing there at all? So, if we make environment around us properly clean, beautiful, and this will affect, first of all, on what? Our consciousness, our mind. People do not give any importance to this. In fact, they live and their environment becomes the same as their consciousness. You can see what consciousness is prevalent. You can look at their surroundings and see what they have inside. But the point is that a person can consciously change his environment, and having changed this environment, what he will do? What he will change? Yes, he will change his consciousness. This is the meaning of what Krishna is talking about. How can we use gunas to liberate ourselves with the gunas? To do this, we need to build our life on the sattva level, and strictly on the sattva level. We need to constantly bring our sattva and throw away, drive away rajagun and tamagun out of our filthy life, just to take it away from our speech, from activities, from our attitude to time, from our attitude to people, from everything, not only from food. So we have a separate lecture, what does sattvic food mean and so on. A lot of these points, subtle points, but the point is that I need to take this course and try to kick out anything else and give space to sattva, because sattva naturally helps a person to go into spiritual plane. Sattva is undistinguishable from Shuddha Sattva in quality, and the transition of a person from Sattva to Shuddha Sattva occurs naturally while to go from, because we all think that okay, somehow I will tamagunically, live my life and then I die and return to Krishna, right? Well, here somehow I limp alone in Tamagunka and then to Krishna. But can this happen?
Не бывает такого. Не бывает.
No, there is no such a thing. It does not work. From rags to riches, no.
Человек может перейти в саттву.
One may only pass to Shuddha Sattva through Sattva.
Как он может, если он не
On us to pass, because how can he find himself in the atmosphere of Shuddha Sattva if he has not learned some elementary things? He wouldn't have any inclination for this. It's just simply some kind of a mental picture. And unfortunately, people think that yes, Sattva is good, but from my own tamaguna, it's a little bit difficult to get rid of. Therefore, let there be Sattva, but let there be something more dear, more close. Also, there is a good story. Once a man came to a doctor, a nutritionist with a complaint. Doctor, dear doctor, I'm getting fat, like by leaps and bounds. Like, no matter what I do, I'm continuously gaining weight. Please advise something. The doctor told him, all right, there is such a diet limitations. Here you are, eat vegetables, greens, salads. He wrote him a table. 2 weeks later, a person comes. The doctor says, so, how is it going? I have gained 2 kilos, he says. That is impossible. This just cannot happen. On such a diet, you cannot gain weight. Let's weigh you. They weighed him, he gained 2 kilos. He says, well, okay, so tell me what you're doing. Maybe you're doing something wrong. I was strictly following everything you said. My wife brought me everything that you said in time, according to everything else. The doctor said, maybe you ate something else. He says, how is it something else? I ate everything I usually eat, and your stupid diet as well.
Что вы имеете в виду? Ясное дело.
What do you mean? Well, I ate everything what I eat usually, plus I added your stupid salads. Therefore, what is usual must be thrown away. We want to achieve something, then we need to put ourselves on a diet. And what is this diet called? Yeah, this diet is called Sattva Guna, which will help us chant the holy name.
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare. Но я сознательно про святое имя не говорю, потому что мы же еще не о бхакти говорим.
I deliberately have not spoken about the holy name because we're not talking about bhakti yet. It's not soon that we will start talking about bhakti. It's a joke. We're only talking about bhakti. We talk about how sattva can actually help us appreciate bhakti. And Krishna says a very important thing in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, so that not to be soundproofless.
Until
one revives one's direct knowledge of the spirit soul and derives away the illusionary identification with the material body and mind caused by the three modes of nature, one must cultivate those things in the mode of goodness. By increasing the mode of goodness, one automatically can understand and practice religious principles. And by such practice, transcendental knowledge is awakened. Krishna himself formulates this principle very clearly. This is the 13th chapter. I do not remember which verse, but the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I can give a reference later. In other words, Krishna tells us what to do. As long as we have not freed ourselves from false identification in order to gain knowledge, a person must begin this with the most careful monitoring and consciously. The most important point. I have 2 quotes and they're not here. This is Tamagun. Battery is got dead. Go for this. I have 2 more important things to say. But however I can without. It's complete, just last 2 things.
несколько последних вещей.
So yeah, finishing. In 11th canto,
Кришна дает определение ада и
11, in
определение
the same
рая.
11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna gives the definition of hell and the definition of heaven.
Ад и как Кришна определяет рай.
Would someone like to know how Krishna defines hell and heaven? How
Рай
Krishna
это то
defines
место,
them?
где
He says
преобладает
heaven.
саттва-гуна. Ад это то место,
Sorry,
где
he says
преобладает
heaven is where sattva guna predominates and hell is where
Иначе
tamaguna
говоря, каждый из
predominates.
нас может уже в этой жизни
That's all.
оказаться где?
In other words, each one of us already in this life can be located where? Yes, in hell or in heaven,
Всё очень
depending
просто,
on
не
how we
нужно
live.
никаких, не нужно никаких
Everything is very simple.
каких-то еще
We don't need any
вещей,
additional
не нужно ждать, когда мы
extra
помрем.
things,
И когда
something
апостол
else.
Петр
We don't need to
откроет
wait until we
нам
die and when the
врата,
apostle Peter opens the crystal gates for us.
или наоборот закроет.
Some
Человек
crystal
может
gates,
в этой
on the
жизни
contrary,
быть
or on the contrary, closes them.
в этой
A
жизни.
person
Как
can
правило,
be
почему-то
in
люди
paradise
предпочитают
already
ад.
in this life, and a person can be
У
in
Вольтера
hell.
спросили, куда он
But
хочет
have you
попасть, в ад
noticed that
или в
somehow
рай?
people prefer
Он
hell?
сказал, в раю
Voltaire was asked when he
погоду
wants to go, where he wants to
Зато в
go,
аду
to hell or to
компания
heaven. He said, the weather is better in heaven, but the company is more cheerful in hell.
Как правило, люди руководствуются тем же самым принципом, и поэтому
As
оказывается,
a rule, people are guided by the same principle,
потому что они
That's why they end up in
веселую
hell.
компанию.
because they prefer a nice, jolly company.
И люди идут туда, в эту тамагуну, в этот низкий вкус.
And people go there,
И
in this
тут
tamagun, and this low
причем,
taste.
чтобы как бы
And then
завершить лекцию и свести ее,
also in order to
замкнуть
sort of complete the lecture,
такой цельный круг,
to enclose it
к
in
самому
some
началу, где я
integral
объяснял,
circle,
принципы познания.
to the very beginning where I explained
Мне
the principles
хотелось
of
еще один стих из
cognition.
дать под конец, чтобы
I wanted to read one more verse from the Gita at the end,
закон уложить.
in order to, somehow
Кришна во втором стихе 14
put this
главы
all law in place. Krishna, in the second verse of the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, explains
который пользуется
what
этим
happens to a person
знанием. Говорит, я сейчас объяснил тебе это знание о трех гунах.
who is using this
Поняли, да?
knowledge. He says, I have
Почувствовали?
explained to you this knowledge of three modes of material
Простой
nature.
пример.
Did you understand?
Кришна
Yes.
говорит,
Did
если
you
вы
feel this knowledge, what
будете
Krishna
знать,
said? Simple
если вы
knowledge, right?
узнаете,
Krishna
идам
says, if you
гьянам
know,
упашритья.
if you got to know, idam gyanam
Очень
upashritya,
важный смысл имеет.
upashritya
Я чуть попозже.
has a very strong, important meaning.
Но,
And I
условно
will
говоря,
mention about it a little bit later
упашритья
what it
можно
means,
сказать,
but
если человек
for the sake of
понимает
discussion,
в этом знании.
upashritya,
Идам гьянам
one can say if a
упашритья.
person takes
Что в результате
shelter
этого получится?
in the knowledge,
Кришна
idam
говорит,
gyanam
как вы
upashritya,
думаете,
what will happen as a
что
result?
в результате этого
Krishna promises. What do you think should appear as a result of this?
Нет, Кришна обещает гораздо более значительный результат.
No, Krishna is promising a much more significant result.
Давайте, предполагайте.
Idam gyanam
Что в
upashritya.
результате того, что человек пользуется
Okay,
этим
just
знанием,
give your assumptions. Come on.
особо
What will happen to as a result of applying this knowledge? Liberation,
Кришна дает
bhakti.
очень важное обещание. Идам гьянам упашритья мама садхармьям агатага. Понял кто-то? Мама садхармьям агатага. Дарма что значит? Да. Дарма значит природа.
Krishna gives a very important promise here. Idam gyanam upashritya,
Саддарма
mama
что значит?
sadarmyam agataha.
Да. Вечная природа.
Someone understood?
Мама саддарма
Mama sadarmya agataha. What does the dharma mean?
идет. Такой
Yes.
человек
Dharma means
становится
nature. Dharma means character,
на один уровень сам.
essence.
Такой
So
человек
what
обретает
Saddharma
такую
mean?
же природу, как сам Бог.
Yeah, your eternal nature.
У христиан есть очень
Мама
хороший
Садда-
термин.
My agataha
Обожение.
goes.
Они говорят,
comes
что в результате
to-
духовной практики интенсивной
Such a person becomes on the same
человек обожение.
level with
Человек должен
such a person acquires the same nature
или обожиться
as God Himself. Christians have a very good definition.
таким же, как Бог. Должен стать
Deification.
таким же по
It
качеству,
says that as our
как
spiritual
Бог.
practice, intense austerity, something
Кришна
else, a person
объясняет,
shall
кто это может
deify
объяснить?
himself.
Гьянам упашритья,
That is, he shall
мама
become the same as
саддармьям
God.
агатага.
He shall become the same in quality as God.
Такой человек приходит к
So
этому.
basically, he
И,
becomes the same as
а,
God. he should become the same as the quality and the nature as God. And Krishna explains who can receive this. Idam gyanam pashatya mama sadarmyam agataha. Such a person comes to that, and Srila Prabhupada is explaining here what upashritya means. Although upashritya means taking shelter, no, it's not Srila Prabhupada explaining. Baladeva Vidyabhushan is explaining. Yes, Baladeva Vidyabhushan explaining. Srila Prabhupada says that actually by entering the spiritual world, the living entity takes on the spiritual form. The spiritual world is engaged in spiritual activity, and this activity is called life of devotion. The atmosphere of the spiritual world is not contaminated by the influence of the gunas, and the living entities there are not qualitatively different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To acquire this knowledge, it is necessary to develop all spiritual qualities in oneself. One who possesses these qualities is not born in the material world during its creation, does not perish alone with the world during its destruction. But Baladeva Vidyabhushan makes another very important remark, which can sort of like enclose the whole lecture into one single whole. He says upashritya means, what does it mean? Serve. Serve the spiritual master. One who attains this knowledge through service, idam gyanam. Because what does upashritya mean? Proximity, near. Upashritya. One who approaches this knowledge by approaching the holder of this knowledge, one who is Upanishads, one who listens, one who acquires this knowledge through service. Such a person, mama sadharma agataha. Such a person becomes on the same level with me. Well, that's basically what I wanted to say today, how you can apply this knowledge. And I just wanted to quote these verses from 11th canto. Svarga sattva gunodaya. Svarga, or paradise, is the place where sattva guna predominates. Narakas, tama, unna, where ignorance prevails. There is a hell comes. So that's pretty much it. So let's repeat what I have said today, what we've heard today. What did we talk about today in a nutshell? Yes. Yeah, we spoke about the Vedic method of comprehension, that it's achieved through service, through the fact that a person gives something, that a person is determined to give, to do something. And this is the price that needs to be paid, and that there is a process by which this knowledge is acquired. And what are the steps in this process? Listen, think, reflect. How to reflect, how to listen. To listen how? With concentration, and listen to the scriptures. And what's next? Yes. Then reflect, understanding the actual logic of the scriptures, what they wanted to tell us. And finally, the third, yes, apply in life, or see how it is working in life. And as a result of this, I begin to see the world in a different way. I begin to see clearly my own goal, what I really need to do, what is my goal, that not the goal that I'm imposed on me. Because this world constantly imposes goals on us. All the advertising posters, what do they impose on you? Yeah, this is your goal. This is another advertising poster that I saw. The shortest way to your dream is a loan from Sberbank. Your dream. This is not your dream. It's been imposed on you. It's been instilled in you. But if a person will be able to see the world through the prism of the scriptures clearly, then he will clearly see his real goal. And this is what we were speaking about, talking about the methods of cognition. And what did we talk about next? What are the gunas? What do we see this world? How do we see this world? What are the gunas? Yes, this is a TV. In fact, the soul gets this direct experience, or this paroksha gyan, aparoksha gyan, receives
И настроить
outside
правильно,
the
значит,
material
добавить
world.
чего? В нашу
And
жизнь.
here the soul gets a direct experience of
И
reality.
гуны материальной природы с нами что
But
делают?
the advantage is what is the advantage? That what can we do with the TV? Yeah, we can always set it up more correctly.
Так, для
And to
этого я
set it
должен
up correctly
знать,
means to add
каким
something
образом
what
гуны материальной
to our
природы
life?
воздействуют
Yes, to add sattva.
каким образом они меняют.
And these modes of material nature, what are they doing to us? Yes, they tie us up. But the same modes of material nature, what are they doing to us? Yes, they liberate us. This is the instrument of liberation. And for this, I have to know how the modes of material nature affect me, my life, how they change me.
Дальтоников нет у вас среди
What is the mode of material nature? And try to follow, increase, sort of like always pressing all the time on which button? So, yeah, on the yellow one. For
Потому
those,
что другие гуны к чему могут приводить?
yeah. I hope there are no colorblind here among
Счастье,
you.
кадр.
So yeah, so we need to press the yellow button. It will be written there sattva.
Поэтому
Yes, the top one, the best.
только саттва может освободить
Yeah.
человека. Саттва
Because the other
освобождает,
gunas will lead us to what?
только порабощает человека.
To degradation, to unfortunately, to unfortune, to hell. They will lead us to suffering. They will lead us to destruction, to degradation, and all that
И,
stuff.
соответственно, он ведет нас через
Therefore,
саттву.
only sattva can
Если вы
liberate a
спросили, значит ли
person.
это, что
Sattva
преданный
liberates,
должен
the rest of the
поступать
gunas are only
по-другому?
enslaved.
Что Прабхупада ответил?
And therefore, who is Vishnu?
Знать.
Yes, he's God. He's the
Преданный
master.
должен жить в гуне благости,
And
должен относиться к другим людям в гуне
accordingly, he
благости.
leads us through sattva to Shuddha sattva. Srila Prabhupada was once asked, does this mean that the devotee should act in the mode of goodness? What did Srila Prabhupada say?
А.
Prabhupada replied,
Иначе в
yes.
противном случае гуны материальной природы всегда что, в каком
It
состоянии
does.
находятся?
A devotee must live in the mode of
Всё время
goodness. He
одна
must treat other
пытается
people in the
доминировать
mode of
над
goodness.
И
In
для
order
того,
to
чтобы
finally attain the
саттва-гуна
transcendental
преобладала в
guna or
нашей
guna
жизни, что
above
нужно
all
с
these
остальными
modes.
гунами сделать?
Otherwise, in other case, the modes of material nature always what? What condition are they in? Yeah, all the time. One tries to dominate the other.
Вот, собственно,
And in order for the sattva guna to prevail in our life, what do we need to do to the rest of the gunas?
И
Yeah,
в
we need to
следующий раз я
sweep them
буду рассказывать
out, drive them out,
о пище.
drive them out.
У нас будет очень интересные
Well,
вещи. К нему
That's
будет
pretty much
практическое
it.
приложение
Thanks a
после
lot.
этого. Кулинарные курсы. Мы посмотрим, как их провести, то есть мы будем реально
And next time I will
учиться,
talk about food.
что значит саттва. Потому что некоторые люди думают, что картофельное
We'll have a
пюре
very interesting thing,
высшее проявление
and there will be a
sattva-гуны.
practical application to it afterwards.
Особенно если со
Cooking
сливочным
courses. We'll see how to run them. We will, in reality, learn what sattva means,
маслом.
because
Практичные занятия.
some people think that mashed
Какие-то вопросы,
potatoes
может быть,
is
да, Адриан? Мгм.
the highest manifestation of sattva guna, especially with butter. Next time there will be some practical lesson. Maybe you have some questions. Yes, Andrin. When you tell the theory of gunas, everything is really built on the terms of our usual logic. It's clear that it is bad and then bad. At the same time, this logic clashes with the fact that the mind is in the mode of goodness, and the reason, which in theory, in ordinary worldly logic would simply be that the reason is what in the mode of goodness, and the mind is in the mode of passion. This is how logical is that? No, but our mind is not in the mode of goodness. This is a big misconception. What guna our mind is in?
Вода, она в какой гуне?
Yeah, in the one he's in.
Она может быть как по порождением чего угодно, но гуны будут влиять на нее, и в зависимости
The
от
mind is the
гуны,
product
она будет проводником
of the mode of
одной или
goodness,
другой гуны.
because the mind is static by
Чистый
nature.
ум находится в гуне
But at the same
благости,
time,
потому что он
it's
статичен.
like any other substance, say,
Разум динамичен
like
по
what
своей
in
природе,
what
будучи порождением
guna the
гуны
water
страсти.
is in. It can be a product of
Что
anything, but the gunas will
происходит,
influence
что
it. And
разум
depending on the influence of the gunas, it will be the conductor of either one or the other guna. So a pure mind, yes, is in the mode of goodness because it's static. So the reason is our consciousness is dynamic in nature, being a product of the mode of passion. So what's happening in the mind under the influence of the mode of passion, being a product of the mode of passion, and under the influence of the mode of passion, it becomes infected with various plants. And since the mind is next to our intelligence, then the intelligence affects the mind, and the mind is also excited. The mind is due to being static. I tried to talk about it during Ram Navami, how actually our static mind is easily to wind up. Exactly, because it's static. It's static, it's light, you know, but it's light. Someone comes to our mind and begins. And the mind is... It's product of the mode of goodness because it's transparent, it's light, because, so to speak, it's mobile, it's flexible. And these are all the attributes of sattva guna. Because if it were a product of tamagun, it would be like... you know, it would acquire one form and stay in it. But it's very mobile, all of himself. And this is the quality, of mode of goodness, because the quality of mode of goodness is lightness. So the intelligence always has in itself an element of the active beginning. The mind is static. The mind can reflect. When the mind is in the mode of goodness, what does one do? Yeah, he sits and counts the flies. Not the flies, but okay, angels. A person is just reflecting, sitting, and he feels good. He's solving this philosophical problem, how many angels can fit on the tip of the needle or something else. But the bottom line is that since it is so light, it's very easy to charge, to start. And it starts up through the intelligence. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapilodhara explains that the intelligence in relation to the mode of passion begins to make plans for the future. What will become, what will be happening, how will everything will be, and then I will do this and that and this and that, and the mind thinks, oh yeah. All is well, I'm in good hands, I have a good leader who will lead me where I need to go. And accordingly, the mind jumps after him. Come on. Now we will do this, and then I will do this, and I will help you.
Место без гун.
So the question. In fact, everything is a manifestation of the modes of material nature. Where can one find information about what is under the influence of which modes of nature? Is there such a description?
Пластмасса, понятно, какой гуне относится. В Шримад Бхагаватам об этом ничего не говорится, по недоразумению какому-то, но...
Well, in Gita, Krishna says, also in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he explains this much more in detail. For example, which guna belongs to plastic?
Еще раз, что Кришна делает? Кришна
Well,
дает нам
in Srimad
возможность
Bhagavatam,
почувствовать, что
it is not
значит
said
самогуна,
about the
что
plastic,
значит раджа
but
гуна, что значит саттва гуна.
in the next
У которого есть, ну, какое-то
in the next
ощущение,
edition of Srimad Bhagavatam, which will be after Kali Yuga,
пластмасса,
they will
по
add
какому принципу мы можем
that
обсуждать?
there was all again what Krishna is doing. Krishna gives us the feeling of what does tamaguna mean and rajaguna mean and sattva-guna mean. And the person who has some sensation,
На химический завод.
he can understand, he can see this
Она
image.
вся красивая, да?
Plastic, on what basis can we judge?
Видели, как они все
By its origin, right?
берется. Вот, это всё
It's clear by its origin. Where did it come from? Have you ever seen how this plastic is produced? Take a tour of the plant, the chemical plant. I was there. Now it's so beautiful, everything is transparent. So you should see how it comes from, where it comes from. It all comes from the oil. And what is oil? Well,
все невозможно
yes,
описать.
these are
Кришна дает
remnants of
какие-то
something
основные вещи, так, чтобы
rotten,
человек мог
not
додуматься
clear what, mammoths from the
сам,
past,
чтобы он
Satya
мог
Yuga
это
or something
знание,
else.
и в этом смысл этого знания. Человек получает некую такую как бы схему или призму.
It is impossible to describe everything. Krishna gives some basic things so that the person can think out by himself. so that he can, so that, and that is the meaning of this knowledge. A person receives some kind of a, like a blueprint, through which blueprint he sees everything else. He sees already. People sometimes often fail to understand what the cow, what guna is it is in goodness. So it depends whom you compare it with. These are all relative. From the point of our position on the ladder, yeah, a human being is much higher. The demigods are even higher. Animals are in the mode of ignorance. All these combinations they're like colors. All these colors are there. You just need to learn how to distinguish them. The cow is an animal. It is naturally in the mode of ignorance as an animal, but as the kindest of all animals and the most loving of all animals, it's in the mode of goodness. But from the point of view of evolution, of course, it's in the mode of ignorance. It's clear, of course. And of course, it's not possible to describe everything, and is impossible. But what Krishna is doing in the Gita, he gives a threefold classification. He explains things in three gunas. In Srimad Bhagavatam, he explains a much wider range of things in four qualities. He always gives the transcendental. He tells what it means to live in Sattva Guna. Where to live? In the woods. Why is living in the forest is Sattva Guna, by the way? Yeah. Unexpected decision to live in the forest is Sattva Guna. Why is it Sattva Guna? You're only surrounded by the beings in the mode of ignorance. But why is it Sattva Guna? Well, because there are no advertising posters or any other nasty stuff. Living in the cities, respectively Rajagun, live near a bar or a casino is Tamagun, and living in a temple, what is this? Yeah, this is Shuddha Sattva. Krishna explains all these four categories in the 11th canto in more detail, and he explains who are the carriers. We'll talk a little bit about this in detail. So, question about the goal. Not clear what the question is, but we'll only hear the answer then.
По-настоящему увидеть цель, вопрос о цели. По-настоящему увидеть цель может только человек в саттва-гуне, естественно. По-настоящему правильную цель увидеть человек в саттва-гуне. Так мы можем, опять же, читая какие-то книги, мы можем, точно так же, как нам внушают другие цели, да?
Really, the question about the goal. To really see the goal, a person in Sattva Guna can only see, truly can see the proper goal. Again, we can, by reading some books, just like these advertising posters are imposed on us, some goals, we can read about it and get inspired, but it will be very difficult for us to really achieve this goal, because in fact the goal should be found inside, to see when the heart is completely purified. That is why we have such problems all the time. We need to somehow engage in self-hypnosis. All the time we have to call people to lectures. And at lectures, what do? Yeah, engage in some hypnotic sessions. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare.
Что это их цель. Если бы это было ясно, то не нужно было бы, может быть, гипнотизировать, нужно и так бы понятно было все. Потому что понятно, что надо повторять святое.
Because people constantly forget that this is their goal. If it was clear, then perhaps it wouldn't be necessary to hypnotize, because that would be understandable naturally. Because it's clear that you have to chant the holy name in order to finally see just yourself. But people forget about it only because of the ignorance. Because of this. In Shiva Samhita, I've read one interesting thing today. It's explained how Maya works, how ignorance works. There are two of these very famous aspects of Maya. Vikshapatmika Maya and Avaranatmika Maya. A little bit differently, Shiva explains it. Because Vikshepa literally means to throw off. It is a movement of some kind of. Avarana is clear, it's like a curtain, a veil. So Shiva explains how it all works. What first happens, how ignorance affects a person. First, Maya knocks a person down off his feet, literally, in the literal sense of the word. Just throws down his consciousness into an unknown direction. This, unfortunately, can be seen in the example of devotees. There was a normal devotee, he talked, everything seemed to be good with him, but somehow, through some crack, he let Maya in, and at some point, Maya there from within entered into him. And what is it doing? Vikshapatmika Maya. It does punch, slaps him, knocks him out. How is it called? Hook. Uppercut. Uppercut. So this Vikshapatmika. So it happens, the person is normal, he's in a normal state, but since ignorance remains, Maya comes there and at the most unexpected moment knocks the person down, and the person starts talking some kind of nonsense, delirium, not clear what. Everything goes astray. A man who could have been like for 20 years practicing suddenly starts eating meat, and not clear why. Nothing is clear. So Shiva says, this is Maya. Maya is an experienced boxer, and it can give a punch when it is needed. And immediately after that knockdown, you know, when a boxer is knocked down, and then they cover him with such a sheet. So the same happens to our intelligence. Maya comes up, punch, and the cover is there. And that's all. The person is already there under this cover. I'm fine. Yes, everything is fine. They said it was bad here, but actually here is all nice. What I mean here is that the goal is very difficult to see when a person is in Maya. In such situations, well, you have to shout out. You have to shout. Raghunath Das Goswami says in such situations one should shout, calling out to the devotees, who can help us. In such situations one should run to the devotees and ask, please help me. This is difficult because we're already knocked down, but with the last bit of strength you need to shout. Raghunath Das Goswami says you need to call Bakabhida. Bakabhid means killer of Baka demon. Baka is hypocrisy or deception. At this moment you need to call, actually not even him, not the killer himself, but his patrolmen, his servants, who can get you rid out of this deception, because Maya is cheating, Maya is illusion. And at this moment you need to somehow, one way or the other, somehow, even if you don't have the strength, but internally you call to someone, and Krishna will make an arrangement. He will send a person who will try to pull you out of this deception. Okay, thanks a lot. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.